Hiya, it's Gaz from Moth Creatura with another video post on my current projects. This one's going to be kind of an overlap of the City Sled, so an update on what we're doing with the City Sled, and then also a one on the motorcycle helmet that we're doing in conjunction with the City Sled, the motorcycle build. So without further ado, I'll jump in, we'll have a look in the workshop and I'll give you an update on the motorcycle helmet. It's going to be less doing stuff on the helmet today and more just like sort of an overview on what we did do. I had done a video previously that I haven't shared with you. It should have went up last week, but to be honest with you, it was largely me prepping the surface for paint. So like you'll see the helmet here now, right? There's the back of the helmet. It's on a stake there just so it's easier to paint. It's not like having to hold it. There's the front of it. Now it's got its primer layer on, and I'll talk about this in a second, but getting this ready for paint, right? I did a video and it was prepping it and it was like sanding it down, explaining about why we do this and why we key the surface and stuff. But I figured what I was doing, because it was such a boring, lengthy video, I end up filling the time when I was doing it, talking, which is cool. But I ended up I played it back and it might be interesting to some people, but I just listened to myself and I thought, fuck, you just sound like you're dripping, like a knackered fridge. And we've just had issues with a knackered fridge, and so I had to go and buy a new fridge and a new freezer in line with, like, it's kind of forced. We have plans in life, don't we? So this year's projects were going to be XYZ in the house, you know. Next year's projects were going to be bloody DEF or whatever it's going to be, you know. And so when things break in your life, you've got to be flexible, haven't you? You've got to be agile. So the kitchen wasn't on the agenda to do the kitchen this year. It just wasn't. It wasn't in me sort of financial planning, I suppose, because we got in this house like the other year, so we're looking at outside aesthetics, and it's not really to do with just making it look like tarted up. It's to do with the fact that my windows are old and knackered. It's like a super old house, and the windows are like aluminium framed ones at the front, which should have been the best that they could have been and lasted a lifetime, but they weren't, and wind gets through them and it's just not good. We've had 2 Christmases in there now, 2 winters, and it was supposed to be done last year, fixed new windows and stuff, but because of COVID and stuff and lockdowns, just the workers that we were getting in just couldn't sort of meet the requirements, you know. So it's been put off. So that has always been on the top of the agenda for the house, to deal with that. But then other jobs come up, like the fridge went, so it's like, right, okay, well, we're going to replace the fridge with what we've got, same style, but they're a lot of money, you know, they're not cheap. So it's like, do we really want to do that if ultimately this is how we're going to change the kitchen next year? So it's like, well, no, we don't. So it's kind of forced to look at the kitchen now, and because some aspects fold into other areas where the soil stack is in the kitchen, it comes from the particular bathroom, so it's forced me to look at the bathroom, and it kind of, oh god, so it just opens up a can of worms. It'll be good in the end, but it just, right, so you get the idea. 3 minutes there and I'm dripping like a knackered fridge, giving you the background. And ultimately these fridges that we ordered the ones that we wanted, like commercial looking, under counter, but commercial looking fridges and freezers, like stainless steel flat, and they go under this worktop that I'm going to make. And but basically they look lush, they looked how I wanted them to look, right? But the fan went off on them every like 5 minutes. They weren't suitable for being in the house, put it that way. You could hear them all hours of the day. They wouldn't keep the temperature. The commercial ones, so they're a lot thinner. The insulation's a lot thinner than a residential type of one, like a retail one, which is why they don't keep the temperature, which is why the regulator kicks in, which is why the compressor kicks in, which is why the fan kicks in. And it's just like, it made us feel bad for those in the commercial sector doing like pubs and restaurants and stuff, because they go down the route of getting commercial goods that, to be frank, like, and pardon me bloody language, are just shit, not fit for purpose, and typically cost a lot more money than what retail ones do. So they went back, but because I bought them commercially, it's a nightmare getting the money back. It's literally been 5 weeks now still on me refund for these items. Nightmare, man. I'm not going to go ahead and name these companies just yet, because I don't want to burn that bridge. I want my money back, but if it doesn't happen, I'll be putting their names up and this and the other. But the fact is, we've been living out of a cool box for the past bloody 5 weeks. Like, honest to God, you wouldn't believe it, man. Here's my cool box here, and yeah, been living out of that for the past 5 weeks. So the missus and the kids away at the supermarket to get some more ice, so we can keep our bare essentials in there, you know, your milk and that, and it's just ridiculous, isn't it? Anyway, that's what this last video sounded like, just dripping like a knackered fridge. So trust us, we've condensed that down to a couple of minutes there explaining why I haven't done it, but it's better than you sitting watching 25-30 minutes of me sanding a helmet, whinging. Coming back to this, right, so these bits, right, what these bits are is when I was keying the area, like, you know, to put the fiberglass in and then sanding these bits down, that is where the top layer of the sort of finish of the fiberglass and the carbon fiber was, right? So this is a bit of material coming through, you know. It's not the end of the world, it's not structurally weakened or anything, it's just not very pretty, is it? So clearly if I want a nice clean paint job on this, I need to remove that. And I don't think sanding will be the way to go, so I think what I'll be using is a real sharp Stanley blade and kind of cropping that off, you know, cutting it off. Then when I come round, you'll see, like, look at this proper deep gouges here, like in the fiberglass work that I did, and then also, can you make it out? Maybe you can make it out, maybe you can't. Some really deep sort of channels when I was sanding with the coarse sort of sandpaper. Now what I've got to address that, I'm not just going to go and fill that again with the grey filler, the plastic filler. We use plastic filler on this because it was like a hard surface one, like the fiberglass and the carbon fiber. It's composite, it doesn't absorb, it's non-porous, so you need to use a primer that's going to stick on the top of the surface as opposed to trying to sink in, because it just won't sink in. So we use the plastic primer. But what I'm going to do to address that is I'm going to use filler primer. Now what this is, it's slightly thicker and it's designed to fill those like sort of imperfections. So we'll give it one dusting over with that, right? What we'll do first, we'll cut this with the Stanley blade, all them sort of, like there's another area over there, we'll cut that off, so smooth it as best we can. We'll give it a dust over with the filler primer, right? Once that's dried in the sun, because it's lovely the day, that'll be dried. We'll give it a little light dusting back with the, probably about, maybe it's an 800, just to take the sort of bubble effect off the spray paint, because we're using aerosols as opposed to a like sort of proper spray booth. We'll take that sort of the ripply effect off, and then see if we've got a smooth surface underneath. If we have, that's brilliant. If we haven't, and it kind of reveals some areas, then that's when we need to start sanding. And what we'll do, we'll sand down until such a point where we get to the original paintwork underneath. We don't want to go beyond that, right? Because then we're changing the contours, we're changing the shape of it. So we'll get down to there, and if I have to build up the primer again from there, that's what I'll have to do. So this is a lengthy process, but before we lay any paint on this, right, this will be absolutely perfect, be perfectly smooth, no imperfections, because what we don't want to do is just race ahead and then put paint on, because you're going to see all them imperfections through your paint and then have to live with it forevermore. We don't want that. So first things first for today though, while the sun's out, I'm going to show you this. So going back to the City Sled project that we're doing, the motorcycle, 1958, Triumph 21. They changed it to a 3TA, the name of it. They also had a 500cc, which was called the 5TA. This is Triumph, that is, but this was a 3.5 or 350cc motorcycle, and they call it the 3TA. Now here you'll see it at the moment in my mess of a garage, right? So we've got like, it's still, I mean, the engine's like not plumbed in, it's just literally sat in there, bolted in loosely. I've got the front end on properly, but I haven't got, I've went down the route of, quite strangely, some people might think, because I had a new stem made and I've put a modern front end on, but I wanted to keep the traditional frame, not change the shape of the frame. I haven't went down the route of putting modern race bearings in there, because that would mean I'd have to adapt the inside of the frame. I didn't want to do that. So I designed my stem with the thicknesses and the tolerances to take in the old traditional race cups. So, and it'll be the old-fashioned ball bearings, you know, the loose ones with proper thick oil. So that's what I need to put in. Everything's assembled there apart from that, because clearly I'm going to be stripping it all down again for sending this off to powder coat and this, that and the other. So I didn't want to risk losing them tiny ball bearings and them having to buy them again, so I never put them in the first place. But that's on there nice and tight. Back wheels on there nice and tight. Engine's just in place just for mock-up purposes, because I'm still debating where to put my foot placement on there. And also I need to mock up where I'm going to put my sort of rear suspension unit for the saddle. Right, key parts that's missing in it, the tank. So I took the tank off because in line with my design, which I can't really talk about much, to be honest with you, which is a shame. I'll gob off about it afterwards, after I've done this and after you've seen the finished bike. But we live in a real competitive world, and you see a lot of people sharing things about like it's hard to be original. I really don't think it's hard to be original. It's hard to have your original thought and be the person that brings that to market, especially if you're the type of person that shares stuff, because there's a lot of people out there that can bring things to market a lot quicker. I don't have a big metal shop. I don't have like the capability of bringing something out as quick as like a big established place. So some ideas you need to keep to yourself until the last moment. But without going into the details of what's happening with the tank, I can certainly show you what's going on with it at the moment. So I had to get it sent off, get it dipped to see what state it was in. I tried to strip it myself with paint stripper and it just was not happening. It's like sort of, was it 1958 to 1960, 70, 80, 90, is that 60 years, 70 years, 60 years, yeah, coming on 65 years old, this tank. So it's had its fair share of life, you know, certainly older than I am. But when it got stripped and it got all the paint took off, we could see that there was a few big dents in it, like off the stones, nothing like ridiculous, but it just makes the front quite lumpy. There was a dent I put in it in the side here when it fell off my stand and fell on the hose pipe in my garage. What an idiot. But when it got dipped, it revealed this previous repair here. So you can see tiny little bits of filler in there. It's what the dip does. It removes the paint, but it won't remove the filler. You can see the sort of mounts for the top ones here for the breadboard that goes across the toast rack. Side here for your knee pads. Sides there for the badges. And yeah, it's in canny good nick. But what I've done is opened it up to reveal the state of it inside. And people will be questioning why you've opened it up, why, you know, this and the other, but actually, why not? If you're going to go and do a nuts and bolts restoration or something, you want to know every single part of it's spot on, you know. Right, so you'll see that inside there, you'll see my dent that I put in there. Yeah, that'll knock out. This is the sort of the strut that goes through. That's the forward mounts that goes behind the neck. This is the one that goes behind the saddle. That's how this particular tank sort of mounts. You'll notice on this side, it's got quite a high tunnel, right? But my frame doesn't lend itself. It doesn't go up like that. It's a low frame, so actually we've got quite a lot of loss there of volume of fuel there. You know, you learn these things when you're going doing this stuff with the bike, but it's the way that Triumph intended to make it. It is what it is. But looking at all this orange stuff on the inside, I don't believe it's rust. I think what it is a coating of stuff. Like you'll see some of it peels off, right? And I think when the guys, whoever's done the repair, I think what they've done is they've maybe just had a little leak, you know, after they've done the repair. Like, which is why when it comes to the fuel tank, I'm not doing the weld on the fuel tank. I can weld, but I'm certainly not good enough to weld a fuel tank, because you want it to hold your fuel. You don't want it to have a little leak. It's going to get all over your clothes, all over your bike. Bloody hell, if it goes up, you're a goner. So that's why I'm using a bloke, Mitch. More about Mitch in later videos, but I'm using a bloke who's like a tank expert, who's going to do my tank for us with my design, but he's going to nip it back up for us. But this stuff here, rather than going down the route of getting it like shot blast or something, I'm going to give it a go with my jet wash first. Have a go with the jet wash, see if that'll come off, loosen it all up, and if it does, great, we've got a nice clean surface to work with. If not, then it's like maybe it has to go back to Fiona, who did me dipping for us. She got it all dipped and nice and clean. Maybe she's got to go back to her and maybe she's got a shot blast the inside, rather not go down that route, because it also, it's less erosive than sandblasting, but it can also like wear away the material, you know. But anyway, enough waffle, let's get cracking, see if this comes off. I'm not going to bore you to tears, keep me on here for like sort of an hour when I do this, but let's see how it works out just for now. Move my cool box. set you up against my cool box there. Right, let's see how this gets on. There we're gone. Right, look at that. As I thought, it's not rust. It's that stuff. It's a mess, like the stuff what it is. So there's the. How am I going to do this? Glove on there, divvy. Right. There's the side of the tank that I haven't squirted yet, right? And it looks rotten. It looks like rust. There's the side of the tank that I've just hosed down. I've only hosed down a bit of it, like the outer bits there. But you can see, if that was rust, that wouldn't be coming off with a jet washer. I'm not saying there's no rust in there. There probably is some rust in there, and we'll have to get on it with me grinder or me sort of wire wool or something, you know. And if it's too tough, that's when I'll go and see Fiona again with the sort of blaster. But for now, I'm gonna get cracking with that, clean the inside of that. So I'm sharp learning that this bike builder malarkey is, you know what it is, the niceties of putting the finishing touches on, that is a long way off. There's a lot of graft to go just yet, like, and it's worth it, you know, it's worth it, but I'm also balancing what's going on in my life and what I'm doing and trying to study at the minute, trying to, like, you know, I didn't do too great when I was a young lad at school. I was always like a bit of a clown, you know, not the clown, tried to be a clown, but I wasn't. I was the unfunny clown. And then did my whole, like, sort of past 23 years in the military, and kind of now I'm at uni part-time doing a degree, and it's kind of like a big step, you know, and it's interesting. I love learning new stuff, but I've got that on the go, then I've got other bits on the go, and then I've got other bits on the go, and then I've got Moth Couture on the go, and then and it's kind of like, you know, when you sort of give advice to people about biting off more than they can chew, but you just don't take that advice yourself. It's kind of how I work though. I always work in the red. You know, you sleep when you're dead, as the old saying goes. Right, until next time, I'll have had this tank cleaned up. It will be away then. I'm not going to bore you with another thing then. It will be away then. Helmet will be done, right? Enough to put the top coat down, like the sort of black. So that'll be our next video, right? Me putting the black on that. That'll be cool. You get the judges for me crap paint style technique. Right, until then, take care. All the best. Bye bye.